Hi all, welcome back to the Final Whistle for another stream on the channel. And tonight, well, this evening, is the early championship predictions for 25-26. We're going to do the table 1 to 24, where we think every team's going to finish. We're going to talk about Young Player of the Year, Player of the Year for the championship. We're also going to talk about who the dark horse team's going to be this year, any surprises. We're going to touch on the relegation. We're going to touch on the season in general. I'm going to be joined by Ollie from Sheffield United Way. He's going to give me the lowdown on what he thinks ahead of the championship. So, guys, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. It'd help me out massively if you can do that. And let's get Ollie in. Ollie, how are we?
Yes, I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. Doing all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Ollie, the season now is not far away, is it? Was it a week on Friday now? It's been a quick turnover period with the championship. It's like it ends and then you think, oh, nice summer break and everything like that, and then it comes quick, doesn't it? Like life flashes before your eyes. And what's your feeling ahead of a week on Friday then? I mean, what is it? Birmingham versus Ipswich to open the curtain raiser?
Yeah, I think it is. And it's one of those where, like you say, more than anything else, my main feeling is, where's the time gone? Feels like yesterday that I was driving home from Wembley, crying and trying to think of anything else to do with my time other than watch football. But yeah, seems to have gone really quick, I think, this summer. I don't know if it's because there's been sort of a constant stream of news. Obviously, being based in Sheffield, we've had new news stories coming out about football just about every day, sort of occupying all the time that we've got. So, yeah, it feels like it's been quick, this one, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good season ahead. I think it's one of those where you don't realise how much you miss it until you do have to go a few weeks without it. And trying to watch the Club World Cup, for example, just reminded me that I want real football to watch. So, yeah, I'm excited to get back at it. Bristol City at Bramall Lane, Saturday night, first game. Seems like a perfect start to me. I think it should be a lot of fun.
Well, we look like we've got Sheffield Wednesday at this minute.
I would say, are you going to have a game? What do you think?
This is the thing, you see. They might actually having to change the fixture or something like that, because let's quickly touch on Sheffield Wednesday, the situation. I know you lot hate them. It's a bit of rivalry in it, the Steel City derby in Sheffield. Do you sympathise with them, Ollie, though, taking that rivalry aside?
Oh, I do massively, yeah. It's one of those things where, at the start of the summer, they'd had a decent season. I've made this point a few times over the summer, really, when talking to my friends about it. In the last 25 years since they got relegated from the Premier League, Sheffield Wednesday have not been very good at football, generally speaking. I mean that with no disrespect, but they haven't been able to produce a consistent winning team in the Championship. They've had a couple of seasons in the playoffs, but they've never been able to do loads. So last season, on the pitch, finishing 12th in the Championship, that's as good as they've been, really, in 25 years. Like, it's a really successful on-the-pitch season. So as soon as the full-time whistle blows at the end of last season, I'm ready for a bit of banter. I'm ready for that kind of conversation of, you know what, we've messed it up at Wembley again. They're giving us pelters, and you get used to it. Then you get the first reports out. They've not paid the players in May. And so we give it back a little bit. Oh, yeah, you're on your way, are you? Oh, you're coming back. Haha, you're there to laugh at us at Wembley. And you have that banter. But then you get the second month of it, and then you start getting the reports that the non-playing staff aren't being paid. So people who might live next door to me who are working in the kitchen at Hillsborough, people who are working in the ticket office, they're not being paid. And I think it was at that point, really, where it completely switched. It's no longer something to have a bit of banter about. It's no longer the, oh, yeah, let's have a bit of a laugh and a joke, a football rivalry about it. It goes so much more than that. And it's embarrassing for the city, and it's embarrassing for the people who obviously have to live within that. And it certainly switches straight away to, actually, they've got to get rid of this owner. It's for the betterment of everybody. Now you look at the situation, they've got one of the stands as being closed for the season unless they can get immediate remedial works done. So one of the stands is already going to be shut. They've just announced, I think earlier today, that they've not paid their players again for July. So that's another month where they're not going to be paid. There's some suggestions now that there could lead to strike action from the players. More players may now be eligible to tear up the contracts in the same way that Windass and Michael Smith did. There's just so much going on there that, it's not even something that as United fans we can laugh and joke about. It's just a case of we've got to get that man out of the city. And don't get me wrong, hopefully they'll still get relegated. But there's more important things than, football results at the moment. And I think, there's a huge amount of sympathy for them. Hopefully leading to them getting a positive outcome just for everybody, because it's depressing, and you see your friends and you can't even talk to them about football because it's just too depressing for them.
You sympathise with Sheffield Wednesday from the outside. The fans are the ones that take the brunt of it, don't they? I believe he's even sold season tickets in that stand as well that's been closed. They haven't got a certificate for it or anything. They need to sort it out and fix it. He owes money for transfer business from previous, not paid the players for May, June and July. The manager's gone. Danny Rowe, we didn't know what was happening with him at first, and now he's left. Chris Powell's gone. People at the club hadn't been paid, and it's just gone a joke at this point. And 10 years chance here he's been at Sheffield Wednesday, and they thought, we've got a good owner on our hands here. And then you look at the last couple of years at Sheffield Wednesday and you're thinking things aren't good. Let's be honest. And it's embarrassing, to be honest, that an owner can treat a club like that. And, you just hope a club like Sheffield Wednesday don't go out of existence for that purpose because of a stupid decisions this owner's making. And the MPs of Sheffield have contacted him for a meeting. They want to comment. And he's like, this ain't got nothing to do with you. Basically, F off. This ain't your situation. Like, I'll do what I think's fit for purpose. And he's not helping himself. He keeps prolonging things. He believes the club's worth £100 million. When you talk Sheffield Wednesday fans, it's about 45 million, probably in the region of 50. But I don't get him. I think the guy's nuts. I'm sorry. But what's your initial thoughts? How difficult of a situation is it now going forward for them?
Oh, it's an absolute disaster, to be honest. It's one of those where it's hard to see an immediate fix, because it's one of those where I do think a takeover will happen, based on, what you see and what you hear sort of in the city. It does feel as though the pressure is mounting and a takeover will happen at some point during this season for Wednesday. They will get somebody in. They'll get a proper owner, somebody who can run them like a professional organisation rather than the jokes that they've got going on right now. But that in itself doesn't solve the problem. They've got a 3 transfer window embargo. So right now they've got a squad where you're looking at, they've maybe got 8 senior professional players, and that isn't enough to sustain you for one season. They've got to get through not just this window, but January next summer. They still can't recruit or bring any players into the club. And so there's a huge question mark about them on the pitch and how they're actually going to try and get through what is such a horrible time, even if a new takeover or a new owner comes into the club. And so, it really is one of those moments where you have to just step back away from it and see it as much bigger than what it is. I think the way that Chansiri treated the fans, treated, the local media, the way that he's treated local MPs is nothing short of disgraceful. And it's exactly why they've got to get the independent football regulator in place. That has got to come through as soon as possible to stop exactly this kind of situation from taking place. And, we talked there about the kind of, what does it need for a takeover? And he's asking for £100 million. Like, the context of that is Sheffield United. So we had a takeover 6 months ago, a little bit more, 9 months ago. We were sold for £100 million. At that point, we were a team just relegated from the Premier League, receiving parachute payments. We were top of the Championship at the point that the transfer took place. We'd got multiple multi-million-pound saleable assets: Gustavo Harmer, Michael Cooper, Anel, Vinny Souza. We are a team who were, stable at the top of the Championship, and even we were only worth 100 million. To suggest he should be able to get that for Wednesday, a club without a ground, without a playing staff, without a manager, it's beyond delusional. And it's a really sad situation for them. And hopefully it's one that turns a corner in the not too distant future, because it's been going on for way too long now.
Let's talk about some of the clubs this season before we get onto the table and Championship Team of the Year, if whatever ones we want to discuss on. But The ones that have come up from League One, Birmingham finished on 111 points, by the way. They broke that Reading record in the FL quite smoothly, to be honest. Someone could call them smooth criminals. Birmingham fully deserved it last season. After getting relegated, it was about how they'd come back up. And I think they did a good job of it. They've got good ownership, good backing, good manager in Chris Davis. And you look at what Wrexham's done, the fairy tale story there, the Hollywood story, if that's what people want to call it. Charlton come up as well, didn't they, in the playoffs? What was your thoughts on the three teams that come up, Ollie, from League One?
So much stronger than the teams that went down. Looking at a comparison of those, the ones that have come up look really dangerous. And I think they're a real threat to anybody that's kind of looking through and looking at where the league is going to be this time next season. I think Birmingham in particular, the way that they're going to attack it, the way that they've attacked the transfer window, I think is nothing short of ridiculous. I mean, we talk about ownership. Theirs are so invested, so committed, and doing everything right for Birmingham City. They're doing everything right for the wider city as well. There's lots of investment into infrastructure, into travel, trying to make sure that the city of Birmingham is developed. And I think they're exactly the kind of blueprint that most people would want for their owners. And the squad is mad. I couldn't believe it when I was looking through it the other day. I sat down and I was like, right, let's have a look at a 1 to 24. Birmingham, oh yeah, they'll probably be all right. And I went through their squad and I'm thinking, I'd take most of these. This is a great team. Like, how have they managed to put this team together? And obviously, they're a real danger. And, I think they'll be not just competitive. They'll be up at the sort of playoff conversation, maybe even aiming higher because they look fantastic. I think for me, the question mark is about the manager. Did an unbelievable job. You cannot overestimate how good a job he did in League One last season, but that was his first year as a manager. He's not got proven track record in terms of the step up, and they had such a huge kind of advantage over the rest of the league in League One. They don't have that advantage. When they play Leicester, United, Southampton, they don't have talent advantage with the squad available to them. Can he get the most out of them in that scenario? That's what I want to see from him. But yeah, I think Birmingham are going to be good. Wrexham, dangerous side, but I mean, they'll stay up. I'm confident they will. They'll keep their Disney FC sort of label going forward and they'll have what they'll call a successful season. But I don't see them as a real contender looking at playoffs. I think they'll just be comfortable mid-table. Charlton have done great recruitment. I really like their business. They seem to have been really smart and sensible. They've built the team of sort of getting the best out of League One and adding to what they'd already got. There's going to be a lot of focus around Nathan Jones, the home record they're going to try and build. But for me, they're the ones that are most at risk in terms of that relegation. They're the weakest of the teams coming up, but I still think they've probably got enough about them because they look like a decent side to me.
Wrexham, they like to sign some experienced players, don't they? But you don't want too many experienced players. That's the thing. You've got to have them young heads in there as well who are going to learn and develop a lot more. Birmingham, they've got a fantastic side. Damari Gray's gone there, hasn't he, at the age of 29. And I think he'd be good enough in the Championship. I just hope he scores against Leicester City, to be honest. Charlton have got like a passionate manager, Nathan Jones. He'll want them to be hard to beat this season at home. I think home form's going to be key for these sides in staying up. Like Charlton this season. I think they'll do very much on Oxford, what Oxford did. Everyone had them written off before the start, not got a strong enough team, but then it's how you sort of mentally engage your side to making them hard to beat. And I think that's where you look at. Talk to me about Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester. Came down from the Premier League, spent 1 year in the Premier League, straight back down like the three teams before that. When you look at Luton, Burnley and yourself, Sheffield United. What's your thoughts ahead of them three this season?
So I think the first thing to say is, I don't know if your fans feel the same as ours. When we came down, we felt battered. We felt bruised. We felt like we just didn't know if we even wanted to get promoted again because where's the fun playing in the Premier League? And I'm sure you've had better experiences than us.
When you get smacked about every week, Ollie, mate, it ain't nice.
It's just nothing fun about playing in the Premier League. So there's good news. The standard in the Championship compared to the Premier League is rubbish. Like, I mean that with no disrespect to the other teams in the Championship, but I couldn't believe it last season. So we played in the Premier League and I'd watched us chase shadows for 9 months. I'd watched us get battered by every team and just not even look competitive. We then went and travelled down to Preston. Sorry.
You're describing Leicester last season.
Yeah. It's embarrassing, isn't it? Like, you feel embarrassed watching every game. First game of last season, I travelled down to Preston and I thought, oh, we're still going to be not competitive. We've not improved as squad. If anything, the squad's worse than it was last year. There's no way. Like, we'll be lucky to get into the playoffs. Genuinely, one of the easiest 90 minutes I've ever watched United play. I sat there thinking, is this the standard? Is this what we're aiming to be? And so I think there'll be a lot of catharsis for the fans of those relegated clubs. I certainly think by definitely all three teams will be contenders. I think, might make me unpopular on the channel, so I'll apologise in advance. But for me, Ipswich and Southampton are the two teams who I've got head and shoulders clear of the rest. I think they're most likely to just kick on, run away with the league in terms of the way that they take it forward. Then you've got behind them Leicester, who I've got in a really weird chunk. I think if I take Leicester and I take all the context out of it, I look at the squad, look at the team, look at sort of the manager, I go, 100% should be in that automatic promotion conversation. There's no way they shouldn't be part of that. I then take a step back and I go, right, what's going on with the owner? What's Top doing at the moment? Does anybody know the answer to that question? What's the stability starting to look like? We just don't know. When we look at when did the manager come in, actually he came in late. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. How much of pre-season is he going to have to build this squad the way he wants it? Is he going to have the players he needs? Have they got the striker that they need to make sure they're going to be scoring the goals? Where does it all fit together? And suddenly you kind of go, okay, playoffs. That feels, they might, even if they've got these problems, not automatic, it'll be playoffs. And then you go, but is there a points deduction? Is this something else that's lingering on? And I think until they solve those off-field issues, I find Leicester the hardest of the three relegated teams to judge. I think there's every chance they could finish top and there's every chance they could finish 8th. I just legitimately don't know how that's going to fall together. And so, that's how I see the three teams coming down. I think ultimately they've got squads that are just ridiculous for the level and make me terrified and cry a little bit when I think about it.
You've got squads that are good enough for the Championship, but not quite at it for the Prem. But then how many sides have said that they've gone up?
It's true of all of them. I even look at last season's, Leeds and Burnley were ridiculous. They got 100 points, broke all kinds of records.
Yeah.
I'd put a tenner right now on them getting relegated again because they're just, the gap is just so big. And I don't know how you sort of bridge it. But I suppose for teams in your situation, you've just come down, it at least gives you that confidence of, we know we're good enough for this. We know we've got this division and we know we're better than the teams that we're going to be up against now.
My only positive is for Leicester are actually going to win some games next season.
Yes.
Well, that's my only sort of positive. Like, you know what? I've had all this heartache last season. I watched this get battered, pillar to post. It wasn't the greatest of seasons. Let's be honest. It was horrific last season in the Premier League. Yeah. We were getting beat by 4s, and I'm just thinking, oh my days.
At least you didn't get any 8s. All I'm going to say to you, we had 8s, 6s, 5s. Oh. You had it a little bit better than us.
You won't think it, though. I mean, with the games that we played and the scores we were actually getting against us, it was just like, it'd feel like you've actually been conceding about 6, maybe 7 goals. Do you know what I mean? But the performances were that bad. We had Steve Cooper to bloody Ruud van Nistelrooy and nothing ever changed. You then signing Oliver Skip for £25 million, by the way. That's including add-ons. You won't believe that guy's 20-odd years old. You'd think he's about 40 looking at him with his bloody hairline. Let's be honest. It's tough.
You know what? I think Skip is one of those players that perfectly sums up that I was just talking about. Because I think you've just talked about him there. He looks old. He looks like he's not got the energy. He looks like he's just not got the quality. If you said to me that he's player of the year at the end of this season, I wouldn't necessarily bet against you because the drop down, he will be an absolute Rolls Royce in this division. He'll look head and shoulders clear of so many of the other teams when you see him getting on the ball. It's going to be ridiculous to watch.
It's just, then you talk about Leicester's striking options. We've got Daka. Can't really hit a barn door, I'll be honest. I'm sorry. I know he scored 2 goals in pre-season, but over a 4-year period, he's not progressed like many of the players haven't. You're looking at Leicester, Jordan Ayew. He's not a 46-game man. You can't rely on Ayew to do everything. I know he's got the experience. I know he will be the man. If you can get him that ball, like Fatawu, Mavridis, Jeremy Mongers and that, he'll score. He will score more times than not. So 9 times out of 10, I think he'll get get quite a good couple of goals next season, Jordan Ayew. But
Yeah.
we need a pivotal striker who can score goals in the Championship. Someone mentioned Josh Sargent, but we're not going to spend £20 million for Norwich. We can't really go about that. I think maybe a lone striker, maybe potentially for Leicester. But we're not going to spend silly amounts of money because PSR's on our backs as it is. And if we start doing things like that again, they're going to want to hit us again at the end of the season. So we've just got to sort of be smart this season, haven't we, in the way we go about it. If we can keep El Canoes, it'd be a real intent by Leicester because that guy's an amazing player. Then you look at Jeremy Monga, 16 years old, and he looks like he's been around the game for centuries, you know. The way he can just take on players like they're not there. He's a real future star, and I think he'll be at a top club in the near future. What's your thoughts on Jeremy Monga?
Oh, I mean, if you said to me that he's going to be, I would bet on him to be the Young Player of the Year. I think he's going to be a standout. I think this should hopefully be his breakout season. I think he should be the one. Yeah, he's right. I think he's one who's going to really hit the ground running, really attack the season. I think for me, he's somebody who has such a bright future in front of him. And we look at some of the players, you know, talking about their age. Chris Rigg did this. When he was at Sunderland, he broke through at 16 and immediately could take to the level. And it's because there is an opportunity there for these elite youth talents to really hit the ground running in the Championship. And I think Monga's going to have an unbelievable season. And I do think that he's going to be, he's one to watch 100% for this season and could end up playing right at the very top of the game.
I think you look at Southampton's squad, it is good enough for the Championship. I mean, Ross Stewart did score goals for Sunderland, didn't he, to be fair?
I think that Southampton, legitimately, I think they've got 4 strikers, all of whom I'd go, I think they'd start for us. Yeah. I think they've got about 5 centre-halves that I said, I think they'd start for us. They have got, I can't believe the depth in their squad at Championship level. Yeah. It's insane. They look really stacked.
They need a new goalkeeper, though, won't they, after Ramsdale's gone to Newcastle. Ipswich, on the other hand, they just built a Championship All-Star side in the Premier League. I'll be honest, they were prepared for what they knew what was going to happen last season. They've come down, they've gone up with a plan, and they've got the side. They've got Schmodics in there, Championship top scorer the season before. George Hurst, big striker up front, can score goals, get it on his head, he'll score. You've got Jack Clark, pivotal for Sunderland, fantastic in the Championship last time. And they've got players who can really do a job. You've got Amari Hutchinson again, phenomenal player. The only thing that Ipswich are going to be, I think, which will sort of do Ipswich this season, is the midfield. They've sold Sam Morsey. Yeah. They've sold a few others, haven't they, in this transfer window?
They have, and they've got that is the area of their squad where I think they need to go out and spend the most kind of money. You know, they've lost Luongo, they've lost Morsey. Yeah. It's one of those where you think about it and you think, actually, looking at their squad, they've maybe got 3-4 central midfielders, and they're not massively players that you look at and go, well, they're definitely at the level. You know, Jack Taylor is somebody who is really talented, who I know has got a big future, but he's one of those where is top-end Championship his level? Maybe it's not going to be. Connor Chaplin's really good goal-scoring midfielder, but given the structure of their squad, is an attacking goal-scoring midfielder what they need? No, it isn't. That, though, that's a game changer. If they bring Hayden Hackney in, then suddenly that dynamism in their central midfield, the way that they're able to go out and attack the opposition is going to be completely different. So, you know, we talked about a Championship All-Stars team, put Hayden Hackney in it, and all of a sudden, I don't think there's many teams who would look around and go, well, I won't take them. I mean, it's a decent squad. Got to work on the midfield. But I think the big thing for me with Ipswich is the manager. It's that stability that they've got. It's the fact that Kieran McKenna has been there, built with the club, you know, came in League One, back-to-back promotions. Okay, Championship didn't work at all, but very much is now another manager who knows how to get out of the Championship, knows what it takes, and has all of that respect, time, sort of everything he needs to be successful at Ipswich. And so I think he's probably still their biggest asset.
Who's your sort of dark horses? Who do you think could be a side where you think, you know what, these can actually do something this year? And I spoke to you about Birmingham doing an Ipswich. Yeah. It can happen. It can. I bloody sound like Mick McCarthy. But yeah, I think. What's your initial thoughts on that? Who's your dark horse this season? Who do you think? You know what, people have sort of looked over and think, nah, they can't do it. Who do you think can actually upset the apple cart?
There's two teams for me that really jump out for that, and one has already been shouted out, I think. And I think, a few people in your comments have said the same. So I think Birmingham 100%. But for me, I don't even think they're dark horses anymore. I think everybody knows that Birmingham are coming and that they're a team who are going to be challenging right at the top of this division because they've spent the money, they've brought in the players, they've got the profile. They're going to be aiming for automatics. Do I think they'll get it? No, but I think they're going to be up there. But for me, it's Norwich. I have a massive eye on Norwich. I love their recruitment this window. I think last season, he didn't win the award in the end. But for me, I don't understand how anybody can debate Championship Manager of the season was Liam Manning. I think Bristol City were an unbelievable level of overperformance. He developed their youth, but also he built a really nice style of football to watch, a really successful one to play. I think him going back to his home team, him going to be close to his family, given his off-field circumstances that he's had over the last sort of 18 months, I think there's a real setup for success there. And I think Norwich are really one of the teams that people are sleeping on in terms of how successful they could be this year.
I think if they keep Josh Sargent in there, it'd be pivotal for them because Sainz is gone, isn't he? So that's sort of, if you don't want to sell both, it's like you look at Brentford in the Premier League. You don't want to get rid of Wissa and Mbeumo because if you do, where do you look at it? You've already got rid of Norgard and other players, so you don't want to be in that position again where you're sort of looking at that. But let's get on to who do you think could be the player of the year this year, potentially? I mean, Gus Harmer did win it last year. What do you reckon?
I think Gus has got a chance. I think Gus, we know what he is at Championship level, which is just an elite performer. I think if he stays with United, he'll be our best player. He'll win Sheffield United's Player of the Year. I'm pretty confident. So the question is, are United going to be another one of those teams who are up challenging at the top? Are we going to get 90-plus points again? And I think there's a question mark around that right now. I think it's more likely the Player of the Year comes from one of the relegated teams. I think if I'm picking one from each, I think Jack Clark at Ipswich could very easily win that award. I think if he's so dangerous coming down that wing, I think he'll do the double-double, get more than 10 goals, more than 10 assists. And so that just puts you front and centre of those kind of awards. I think at Southampton, I've got my eye. If he doesn't win the Young Player of the Year, I've got my eye on Tyler Diblin, in all honesty. I think he's another one of those who's explosive, who's got it in him to really be a competitor, to be one of those players who could, not saying he will, but could win this kind of award. At Birmingham, Kyogo Furuhashi brought him in this summer. It's only 12 months ago that he was linked to be going to Manchester City. That's the level of player they've brought in. And so it doesn't take much for it to click for him to definitely have a shout of being Player of the Year. And then at yourselves, I think for me, how long is Fatawu injured for? I think is such a big question because last time in the Championship, he was my star man, to be honest. I couldn't believe how well he'd adapted to it, how much above the level he looked. And so if he's fit for the majority of the season, I think Fatawu has also got a huge chance of being able to win that award.
Fatawu's back. So, yeah. Where I look at Leicester City's Player of the Year, I think it'd definitely be someone like Fatawu, Jeremy Monga, Bilal El Khanous. If we can keep Bilal El Khanous this summer, I think he'll tear up the Championship, to be honest. 100%. They're the types of players I'd look at Player of the Year for the Championship. If you're going to look at Leicester, El Khanous, Fatawu, I definitely think they can be them sort of in the picture. But if Monga doesn't win the Player of the Year for the Championship, you're looking at Young Player of the Year because that has huge potential. He just makes football look bloody a joke at times, I'll be honest. But looking at what was I looking at? Give me a second. Let me just get it up. So looking at the top scorer, who do you sort of see? You've got Cameron Archer. You've got Tyrese Campbell at Sheffield United. You've got Jay Stansfield at Birmingham. You've got Schmodix at Ipswich. Jordan Ayew, if he turns into a powerhouse at Leicester, top scorer all day, you know what I mean? If he can take every chance he gets in this Championship season. I don't know, to be fair. regarding
difficult one.
Scorers.
Really difficult ask. I think Jordan Ayew, the big thing for me with him is just how many games is he going to play? Are you going to get 46? And it's the same for Tyrese Campbell at United. I think if you said to me Tyrese Campbell will play 46 games this season, I would lump all my life savings on him being the top scorer in the division because he's deadly when he gets a chance in front of goal. We're really good at creating opportunities for him. We seem to be playing a much more exciting attacking style. So I think there's every chance that Tyrese Campbell gets it, but he's not going to be fit enough. He's only going to play 25 games. Playing 25 games, you can't win top scorer. So I think that'd take him out. I'd probably say the same about Ayew. I think Adam Armstrong's a good shout, but I think it's more likely Cameron Archer from the strikers that are coming through at Southampton. I think he'll be first choice. I think last time he was at the Championship, he absolutely tore it up. He was only with Middlesbrough for 3 months. I think he got 12 goals. He is somebody who is just ridiculous at the level. But one who we've maybe not talked about from a team we've not talked about, I've really got my eye on Haji Wright at Coventry.
Yeah.
He missed so much of last season through injury, but he has got everything to be a hugely successful striker at the level. He's somebody who is big, physical, strong, can get on the back post, can really bully the defence as they're coming through. So you see him with the physical threat. He's great with the feet. He's fast. He can take chances. He's got everything in his game. If Coventry are going to be a good side, then Haji Wright is going to get a lot of goals.
Dan, I'll give you 100 quid if Pasandaka scores 10. You know, if he somehow scores top scorer, I'll give you 100 quid. I don't know. Josh Sargent, if Norwich can keep hold of him, that guy scores goals. He's pacey, he's quick, he's physical, scores goals. The only thing I worry about Josh Sargent is the injury record.
Injuries.
That's the problem. You look at some of the other players you've actually mentioned. It's injuries. Haji Wright, again, without these injuries, I think can be a top player in scoring goals. Can be pivotal to what Coventry want because they've got is it with Jack Radoni, is it? Coventry, fantastic for them last season. Has been linked where moved to the Premier League. Whether it happens or not, this transfer window is another thing, but it's going to come at a price. So Coventry, again, I think they'll be up there again this season. They always are. They always start really crap at the start of the season, don't they? And then second half of the season, they go on these amazing runs. And then they somehow end up in the playoffs. They're thinking, yeah, really? Like, how have you done that? And other teams can't do it. So Coventry always have a bad start. They get a good start. Exactly. Right, Ollie, let's get into the pivotal part of the show. We don't want to upset anybody by this. If we do place your team in a position you're not comfortable with or it upsets you, then we are sorry. We're just giving our early predictions. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just basic on what we're actually going for at the minute. Obviously, the transfer window is still open. There's a lot of teams can still get players in and move higher up in these positions. But guys, get involved in this. Let me know where you think these teams are going to finish. If you're watching this on playback as well and you support the clubs we are talking about, then get your predictions in the way you think your club's going to finish this season as well. Ollie, I'm going to talk about 24th, mate. Who have you got for 24th in the Championship?
24th in the Championship. I locked mine in, so I'll let everybody behind the curtain. I present EFL Debate with Gab Sutton, and we locked ours in 10 days ago. 10 days ago, I locked in Hull City at 24th in the Championship. Off-field chaos that's affecting the club. They've had similar issues to Wednesday in terms of not paying their players, not paying their staff. They've got outstanding transfer payments in exactly the same way. So have gone into transfer embargoes as a result of not paying those sort of extending bills that they've got going on at the moment. On the pitch, they've torn it up so many times. They were a team ready to explode, starting to look towards the playoffs, sacked Liam Rosenior, and it's just cut the legs off their entire process. So for me, Hull City have got so many questions to answer. There's so much weakness through the squad. The manager, who knows what they're going to get, and who knows at what point their owner is going to implode. So I've got Hull City 24th, but I think there'll be a much more popular 24th choice. And I'm sure that you've gone that way as well, Jack.
I have gone that way, actually. Sheffield Wednesday. I don't think I can bet against it. Free transfer window embargo. The mess of the club that it's in at the minute. I don't think you can bet against Sheffield Wednesday. I think Sheffield Wednesday fans would probably agree. If you look at Sheffield Wednesday before Danny Roll took over, Cisco, they were in tatters then. Danny Roll stabled the ship, brought in that real responsibilities of building that relationship with the fans, and he built that connection with the players, and they were picking results up when people not even expect it. I mean, when they even played Leicester that season, the season they looked dead and buried by that point of the season. I think it was like 18 games after, so they were like really at the bottom, and I'm thinking we took them on. I thought,
games, I think.
Yeah, and then you look at the three. We thought, we'll get 3 points here, and we ended up drawing with them. I think Jeff Hendrick ended up scoring a bloody last-minute bloody goal for them, and I think that's where they sort of steadied themselves off at that point. But last season, they finished higher. Sheffield Wednesday. Where did they finish last year? They finished 12th. That's their best season in a championship season in many years. And I just the mess that they're in with Chanzeri and that the players' minds are not going to be at it. The club's in absolute tatters. I've got them 24th, and I'm going to stick with it. To be fair.
And for what it's worth, Jack, I think you're probably right. If I was doing mine today, rather than when I'd locked them in originally, I think they'd be 24th on my list as well.
23rd, I'm going to go with Hull.
I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday.
we're swapping over then, right? Yeah. So Hull, it's the managerial appointments with Atkins that's the massive problem at Hull. You look at Tim Volter last time, it's a horrific appointment. He just didn't take nothing seriously, did he? He didn't really know what he was doing. Hull's problem is you're looking at is it Jakarovic? I think it is.
Jakarovic, yeah.
Jakarovic, yeah. I think it could be a decent hire for him, but with a record when the managerial appointments suggest otherwise, to be fair. They brought in Semi Ajayi, haven't they? Rida Lalui, I think it is. They struggled for goals last season with striker Kyle Joseph, but they desperately need to address that issue. Hull have lost a lot of key players this transfer window, and they can't afford to lose any more. I think the captain's out for 6 weeks now. So I think Hull will finish 23rd. I know some people have had Hull in 22nd, so I don't think I'm going to be far off with it. They was battling relegation last season. They had an horrific second half of the season, and they've just managed to scrape through on the final day. So, Hull, 23rd for me. So, what's your thoughts on the Sheffield Wednesday one, to be fair? We've got
I think, very much Sheffield Wednesday speak for themselves, don't they? We've talked about them a lot already on the stream, but just at the moment, I don't think there's really much light at the end of their tunnel. They've got 15 players on the books. I would say of those 15, maybe 7 of them are of championship standard and aren't just youth lads being thrown in. They've had the stadium closed. There's even potential for points deductions for them as well, given that they've still not paid their bills, still not paid their players. And there's even a threat that the players are threatening to go on strike, potentially get the game next week cancelled to start the season. There's just so much wrong there at the moment. And so, I think you've got to have them in your bottom 3. And to be honest, they probably should be looking at 24th rather than 23rd.
22nd, I've got Preston. I know they've had an okay window, I'll be honest, but I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. This is the problem with Preston. It's the attacking side of the game. The midfield looks, the defence, it looks suspectable, doesn't it? They need more in the forward line. Their spell in the second tier could come to an end this time round. Last season, they really struggled, didn't they, Preston? They ended up finishing 20th, a point higher than Hull. They were in tatters last season regarding form and that, and they really needed to strengthen that front line. I think they brought in, is it Michael Smith from Sheffield Wednesday? I think they need a lot more in the centre attacking midfield role and a bit more attacking threat, and maybe they'll be okay if they can do that with the window still open. But I just have doubts about Preston. I just think it's going to be another struggle under Heckingbottom, and maybe he could be one of the managers to go early doors.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I quite like Heckingbottom. Obviously, was a United manager not that long ago, got us promoted to the Premier League. I think he's really good at sort of galvanising the club and really trying to get everybody pulling in the same direction. I think the big question mark for me is I like a lot of the business they've done. I think Afire, who they've brought in at centre-half, really good player. Thierry Small's come in on the wing, another really talented player who's going to help them create. But it is about who's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Michael Smith, I like him, but is he going to be 15 goal a season? No, he's not. He's going to get you 8, 9, 10, maybe something like that. Dan Jebison's completely untested and has had 2 absolutely onking seasons at championship level now, so you can't rely on him. So much pressure is on their big Montenegrin centre-forward, Osmajic, but he has so many disciplinary issues that I wouldn't be shocked if he's leaving the club. I wouldn't be shocked if he misses big portions of the season. Last season, I think he was banned twice, once for biting somebody else, once for racist abuse. And so he's very much a player who is talented, but should be really nowhere near a football pitch. So, yeah, there's lots of questions for me for Preston to answer, but they are not my team sat in 22nd. I've gone for Oxford United.
Ooh.
Oxford United in 22nd. And it's controversial. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. They said, how can you bet against Gary Rowett? He had them from the moment he came in last season at the end of November. They were the 7th best team in the championship in terms of the points that they won. How could you possibly have them getting relegated? Well, to be honest, it's because of the underlying data. They were 7th for points won, but their XG differential, so the expected points you would expect them to win, they were 23rd. On the amount of goals you would expect them to score from their XG, they were 24th. The amount you'd expect them to concede, they were 21st. And effectively, all of the data said that Oxford were a poor football team at championship level, who were getting on the right end of the luck, who were getting on the right end of variance. And at some point, that has to catch up with you. When I look at their squad, I don't think it's strong enough. I don't think they'll be able to overperform the way they did last season. And with a much stronger championship overall, I think all the teams down at the bottom, other than Wednesday and Hull, are much stronger than they were last season. And so for me, yeah, Oxford are the ones who are going to drop back down to League One.
21st, I've got Charlton. I think they'll do an Oxford season for me. I think Nathan Jones, passionate manager, he'll want to make it tough for them to beat at the Valley, to be honest. They've had a good window, I think. They've brought in some decent players of Charlton Athletic to sort of find some stability. They are likely to pick up the major of the points at the Valley this season. He'll have them fighting for every point. Nathan Jones. They have bolstered the squad with Blackpool's duo Sonny Carey and Rob Apter. With Jones' trusted allies Amari Bell and Reece Burke also arrived. Is it Tanto Aloefe? He's arrived for substantial sum, and the club have splashed out on League One top scorer last season, Charlie Kelman. So that sort of tells me they're fixing everything in every area. And this is where I think with them, they'll want to... Yeah, Kaminski will save them a few goals as well, which is a good goalkeeper signing. I remember Leicester City were linked with him when Steve Cooper was here. So I think Charlton 21st. I think they'll scrape the championship. They'll do what Oxford did. They'll be a side that like to keep games very tight, and they'll be a side that will be one hard to beat. But it's about how many games they're actually going to lose than win. But I think they're going to want to make it really tight. And if they feel that 1 point off relegation at the end of the season and they stay safe, I think they're snapping your hands off for it. Who you got for 21st, Ollie?
Agreed. And in 21st, I've also got Charlton. Yeah, I've completely agreed with you. For much the very similar reasons, to be honest. I really like the business they've done. I think they were a team who probably started at the lowest level in terms of the squad they had, because they came up through the playoffs last season. A fantastic second half of the season, but the first half of the season, they'd really struggled in League One. So they were a team who had a lot of work to do to get themselves ready for the championship. But I think they've done it really well. Really like a lot of the recruitment, the players that they've brought in. And I think finishing 21st would be a very successful season for them, stabilising themselves in the championship and then being able to potentially look at kicking on, getting themselves into mid-table and who knows what else in the next few years. But yeah, happy with Charlton. Think they're a good side. Think they'll stay up. Yeah, that'll do for me.
20th, I've got Oxford United. I think, to be fair, Gary Rowett is a manager that likes to keep games tight. They brought in Brodie Spencer, Luke Harris. They haven't gone for wholesale changes, have they, to be honest? Brian Dees, Kees Macker. He'll provide more competition and aggression in that midfield of the park. But, you know, they can score goals. I think home form is going to be key for them again this season. So, yeah, I've got Oxford United in 20th. Who have you got?
Yeah. And I've got Preston. So the bottom 5, we've got exactly the same 5 teams, albeit in a slightly different order. The same reason we talked about earlier. I just don't think there's enough goals in the squad for them to be able to kick on. But I have a lot of faith in their defence and a lot of faith in particular in Paul Heckingbottom that it'll make them such a tough team to beat.
19th, who have you got?
19th, I've got Stoke City is where I've gone for in 19th. And this is one of potentially controversial picks, shall we say. I really do like Mark Robins. Think he's a fantastic manager. Proved himself so well at Coventry in recent years. But the one rule of covering the Championship over the last 5, 6, 7 years, never trust Stoke City. Doesn't matter how good the business looks in the summer. Doesn't matter how good the manager looks. Doesn't matter that everything's going right. Never trust Stoke City. And I never will. They're going to finish 19th because they always do the same thing. It always looks good, finishes bad.
I've got Pompey. I think with Portsmouth, they did well last year under Mourinho. 16th they finished. Pompey, I mean, they need enough quality to keep the Reds above the water this season. If they can keep Colby Bishop and Jacob Murphy fit, then they should score a few goals. The arrival of John Swift adds further experience. But he's got to find a way to manage the schedule this season, hasn't he, John Mourinho? Good coach. I think he's one of the only teams to not change the managers. Portsmouth, so
the only one.
Showed some loyalty there, to be honest. I think they're the only side, but yeah, Portsmouth for me in 19th, 18th. I've got QPR. New manager, don't know anything about him. QPR strong under Marty Cifuentes. He went in, changed the whole dynamic of things. He had to be very pragmatic with it. Changed that sort of philosophy from Gareth Ainsworth of how poor things were there. QPR did finish 15th last season, but I'm not sure, to be fair. They have signed well, haven't they, with the additions of Poku and Mbenge. The squad has flair, but I think it's about more consistent than last season, to be fair. But I don't think anyone's expecting miracles from QPR, but they always seem to find something to get them out of the trouble that they find themselves in. So I've got QPR 18th. Who have you got?
I've got Blackburn in 18th. Last season, I backed Blackburn to get relegated, and I was so wrong, and I deserved to get laughed at for my shout. But I just still don't see it with the squad. Do not think that they've got a strong enough squad, really, to expect to be competing towards top end of this division. I think Val Ishmael, I like his immediate impact. He did well when he first came in. Obviously, at Blackburn, he started the season well with West Brom. He had a really good season with Barnsley, but he can never sustain it. His teams burn out. Everyone gets fed up of the long hoofball style that he wants to put in place. Nobody's got the energy to run as much as he wants you to. And I think looking through the squad, it is still quite weak. I like the midfield. I think Sondre Tronstad in particular is a standout player, really talented, probably should be aiming a little bit higher than playing at Blackburn, but I don't see where the goals are massively coming from. I don't really think that they've got much going for them off the pitch. And so, yeah, I think it'll be probably a pretty forgettable 18th for me for Blackburn.
17th, I've got Stoke. I mean, Stoke have bolstered, haven't they? Aaron Cresswell's come in. Toloverov, Ashley Phillips, as they have bolstered the back line quite well, which they're going to have to, aren't they? Silver Thomas has come in, is the only attacking option with Bosniak and Mubama. They need further reinforcements, I think, in the final third. Stoke are always one of them sides. They'll recruit well. Don't always. I remember they spent so much. Was it Alex Neil who they spent all that money, and you thought, yeah, they can actually do something. I think they brought in quite a lot of players, and it's about gelling them types of players and getting them playing that football. In the Championship, you can't go and sign 15 players and expect it to work miracles. So I've got Stoke in 17th. Who have you got in 16th, Ollie?
In 17th, I've got Derby, is where I've gone. I think, like the work they've done, think they're a decent side. I think they've got good recruitment coming in. I love their manager. I think John Eustace is one of the most underrated managers, probably in the EFL in general. You know, he did a fantastic job. Had Birmingham 6th in the league when they sacked him. They got relegated. He had Blackburn competing in the playoffs. I thought they were a team who's on quality of the squad. They probably should have been relegated last season. He came into a Derby side who were on their knees, having been battered week in, week out. Looked as though they were just sleepwalking to relegation, kept them up. So I really like a lot of what Derby are doing, but I think there's still weaknesses in that squad. I don't think they've really got a defined style of play that'll be enough to get them over the line and help them really sort of win those difficult games as we get through the season. And so for me, I've got Derby locked in 17th.
Who you got sixth, Steve?
Wrexham.
Oh,
Yeah, controversial.
I think when you talk about Wrexham being about there, some fans would probably agree, some wouldn't. You know what I mean? But I've got Watford. I always find with Watford they're very unpredictable, to be honest, and that's what annoys me with Watford. They finished 14th last season. They have brought in some exciting players, haven't they?
Good recruitment.
You know, the squad looks exciting and unpredictable, yet far less known about the manager, Paolo Pezzolano. So this is the thing. He's actually a promotion specialist, apparently. But then managers don't really last long at Watford, do they, Ollie, to be honest?
He'll get 3 months.
They've had unknown quantities come in, haven't they? Iran Kunda, Momana, Jerome God have captured the imagination of fans as well. Some exciting players again. But they have been fairly smart in the transfer window with Watford. They have, like I said, recruited well. But my unpredictability is why I put them in 16th, because I don't know what they're going to get, what you ever get from Watford, to be honest. They can be there.
I quite like them. I quite like the business they've done. But I think the big thing for me with Watford is very much going to be what happens for Cech Fatadze. I think he's one of the most exciting talents in the league. And so if he stays with Watford, I think there's definitely the opportunity for them to have a good season. With Wrexham, just to touch on them a little bit, part of the argument is just the squad's too old. I think for me, they do recruit names. They recruit really big name players, people who you think, oh, I've heard of him. He must be good. But actually, they usually sign them when they're 33, 34. And that works for you in League Two when it's about technical quality. You're better than the level. They can't sign 33-year-olds who are better than the level anymore. They're not going to be able to just run through the Championship. And for me, I think that lack of legs, that lack of sort of physicality and athleticism, that's what's going to catch them out. And that's why I've got them struggling a little bit this season.
15th, I've got Wrexham. I've got them a place higher than you've got them. They have made some signings, haven't they? Danny Ward's come in. It's not really an influential signing, to be honest, that one. But they have signed Josh Windlass, Ryan Hardy, Lewis O'Brien. I mean, they are linked with Kiefer Moore, aren't they? They've splashed out on Liberato Cacace.
The suggestion is they're going to pay £4 million for Kiefer Moore. Kiefer Moore's a 32-year-old striker who scored 5 goals last season, spent the last 3 months of the season injured with a hernia operation. It is insane to me that they are considering that kind of bid for him. I think that's what loses my confidence in Wrexham. They've got a lot of money. I'm just not sure they actually know how to spend it.
I think the Championship's going to be a difficult opposition in League One for them, to be honest. I don't know, they can hit the ground running from the off, or they can have a bad start. They'll obviously want to carry on this fairy tale story and write the next chapter of getting to the Premier League. They have got ambition. The ownership is good. They have backed Phil Parkinson. But yeah, his overall record at this level, though, is fairly poor. So that's the only key for it, innit, with Phil Parkinson. Has he got that potential to take on further regarding his record? And this is why I've sort of put them there, because I'm just a bit unsure. Phil Parkinson, first manager out. Lewis O'Brien is a good signing. Ollie, who have you got in 15th?
I've gone for Swansea in 15th. Okay. And I found them a really difficult team to try and pick, to be honest. I think we've reached a part of the table now where you get through this mid-table chunk, and I think if you told me they'd be 10th, I'd believe you. If you told me they'd be 18th, I'd believe you. They're just going to finish somewhere around this mid-table chunk. And it's because, really, for me, I'm not a massive fan of the business that they've done so far. I think the players they've brought in are okay, but they've not really brought anybody who I'm confident can step up to the level. Players like Ethan Galbraith, I know he's a good footballer. I know he's done well at Leyton Orient in League One, but is he a kind of player who's ready to step up? I'm just not certain that is the case. They've lost Harry Darling, who was one of their absolutely key men in terms of building their squad last season, in terms of their leaders in the dressing room. So they've lost quite a lot, and I'm just not sure they've replaced it that well. So yeah, Swansea for me are going to have probably a forgettable season.
Blackburn Rovers, I've got for 14th. Where did Blackburn finish last season? 7th place. So there was more ambitious last year. Under Ismail, it's tough. the situation at Blackburn is tough. You don't know what's going on with the ownership and that. They have sold quite a few players, haven't they, Blackburn? John Eustace has been bloody Honda in Blackburn, haven't they, for their players. Owahashi has been sharp in pre-season. Callum Britton's been linked away. They have brought in Sidney Tavares, Dion Deneve, but it remains to be seen what Blackburn can do, because the only thing I worry about with Blackburn is his injury record as well, where you're going to be losing your key players and that. So I've got Blackburn in 14th for that reason. I just think they need to bolster the squad a lot more regarding attacking wise. Obviously, Tyrese Dolan left. He's now gone to Spain. I think he's at Espanyol. So Blackburn have lost some key players. It's how they replace them key players or somehow get on without them. Who have you got for 14th, Ollie?
14th. I'm fairly confident I've got this wrong. I'll say that now. I've got Millwall sat in 14th. Mainly because I find them such a difficult team to predict. They had a fantastic end to last season. They were probably the form team in the division from January onwards. I like the front two that they've pulled together now. Ivanovic looks like a really exciting striker in terms of being able to grab the goals for them. And partnering him with Josh Coburn, that is a perfect little and large partnership. I think there's so much going right there. But for me, on their budget, they're always overperforming. They're always aiming high, but not really. They're punching above their weight. And I think with the strength of the division this season, I think they really benefited in that really good run from the fact it was a weak championship. And I think this season's a much stronger championship. And Ivanovic will either have a fantastic year or he will regress. And it's too much of an unpredictable one for me. So I've got them down in 14th, which it would be disappointing for them. I think it is too harsh. I think they probably will be a few places higher. But yeah, I found it difficult to find a real good spot to put them in.
Who you got for 13th, Ollie?
Bristol City. I've got in 13th. A couple of reasons. Lost their manager, who was so sort of inspirational in terms of driving them forward. Liam Manning did such a fantastic job there last season. Like I say, for me, probably manager of the year in the championship. And so that overperformance can't continue. They don't spend big money. They don't recruit and really go after the teams and go after their success. And I think they'll regress to the mean. I think the way that they got, and I mean this with all due respect, absolutely embarrassed in the playoffs by us. You know, it was 6-0 on aggregate across the two sort of legs of the playoffs, beat them 3-0 away, 3-0 at home. It is the worst playoff result of all time. And I think there's going to be a massive overhang from that. And so I think they're not going to be in trouble of relegation. They're not going to have a terrible season, but I think they'll regress to their natural level, which is probably mid-table in the championship. And yeah, 13th.
I've got Derby 13th. John Eustace, proven championship manager. He tries to make his sides hard to beat. He did keep Derby up last season. They lacked that firepower, didn't they? Quite a lot last season, Derby County. Where did they end up finishing in the end? 19th. Well, I've got them in 13th this time round. I think the signings of Andres Weimann, Owen Beck, Danny Bath, like I say, proper Blackburn. They've gone in and dug the wheels in there. Colton Morris scored goals for Luton last year. Patrick Ajimang, both arrived to help the chronic lack of firepower, to be fair. And I think that's what they're going to be looking at. Set pieces to their advantage. He's averaged John Eustace at 1.50 points per game since taking over in February. Lost twice in 11 matches. Points both by a single goal margin. Progressions expected with a full season working under John Eustace. So, yeah, I've got them comfortably in 13th. I think it's Eustace they trust at Pride Park. So, hopefully they've got enough goals in them this season is what he'll be hindering at because Derby's midfield has got to be strong on it. I think the defence, you can maybe ask questions here and there, but it's the striking power that I think they had a real problem with, and I think that they've trusted it with Ajimang and Colton Morris. Who have you got for 12th?
12th, I've got Portsmouth. I've got Portsmouth up in 12th. I think Portsmouth are a good side. I think they're going to be a really, really competitive championship team this season. I timed that perfectly for ATPL telling us that he thinks they're going to get relegated. But for me, I think Portsmouth are a good side. I really like their attack. I think with particularly Murphy on the wing, I think there's an argument that he could be one of the best players in the league next season. I think the way that he bullied Sheffield United at Bramall Lane last year was scary to watch. I think if he's fully fit, if he can build on that partnership that he's got as well with their centre forward, I think there's a lot of positives there. And I really like Mousinho. I think he is a manager destined to go places. I think he's done a fantastic job since coming in at Portsmouth, always achieved his goals. And their home record at Fratton Park, you cannot sleep on that. They did unbelievably well. I don't think they lost to any of the top 4 teams in the Championship last season at home. And I think that's where they've really got to target it. Now, the risk for them is their away form. And that is the question that they've got to try and answer. They struggled so much on the road last year, particularly at times Mousinho would even just play the reserves in away games to try and make sure his first team was fully fit for the games at Fratton Park. And you might get away with that first season when you're just trying to stay up. They're expecting progress. He won't be able to do that again. But I think they'll have a good season. I think they're going to be comfortably in mid-table. So, yeah, 12th for me for Portsmouth.
I've got Swansea, 12th. I mean, they've tightened the defence with Cameron Burgess coming in. A sensible summer transfer business, I think Swansea's done so far. A lot of people have had Swansea quite high, to be fair. I can see why. Galbraith and Anusa have also joined the defenders. Ben Cabango has already picked up issues with him missing the first few weeks. Further additions you'd think are expected of Swansea. Obviously, they have had the links with Snoop Dogg, haven't they, and Luka Modric, so they're on to big things, I'm telling you. Yeah. Well, the promotion side bloody things are, don't they, when they promote these type of things? Luka Modric buying into it, Snoop Dogg, I mean, 2 big bloody famous people, to be honest, and I definitely think Swansea can actually. Well, last season they finished 11th, so I'm going to put them in 12th. I think they'll be comfortable mid-table, but I think stronging that defence up a lot more, make it a bit more resolute. Alan Sheehan, I think will do a good job. Luke Williams, I don't know, he was a bit shaky, but yeah, the next one is 11th place. I've got Bristol City, but then I'm going to keep it short with Bristol City. The Championship hangover, I don't know how they're going to expect it. They did I think they did overachieve last season under Liam Manning. He did do a fantastic job, but losing him, you don't know how the new manager is going to do it. Bristol City are a side that some people would have probably had in 16th this season, about bottom half of the table. I think Struber's high energy system could potentially work well with several players. They've got to adapt to it quite quickly. So I think they've got a good enough squad, Bristol City. They do seem to underline the odds quite a bit. So, yeah, I'm going to keep it short. Bristol City 11th. Who you got?
I've got West Brom. West Brom sat in 11th. Their season fell apart after they lost Carlos Corberán last season. And they brought in Tony Mowbray, but he just couldn't get anything happening. I think it's a huge ask for Ryan Mason to try and get this right. It's his first proper managerial job after being caretaker a couple of times over at Tottenham. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. For me, the biggest question is who's going to be in the net, because obviously they lost Alex Palmer last January where he went to Ipswich. They've also lost some quite experienced heads from the squad, Semi Ajayi, John Swift. So there's a lot of question marks hanging over West Brom for me, but they've also got some of the most talented players in the division. We know that Josh Maja, for example, will score goals in the Championship. We know that Colin Grant and Tom Fellows, if he stays, are amongst the best wingers in the league. I think they're a solid side, but I think there's questions for them to answer. And so, yeah, I've got them down in 11th, not really trouble in the playoffs.
Who have you got for 10th? I've got Millwall. Millwall are my 10th. We talk about Melio Ivanovic. He's got to start well, and he's attracted interest in January. They've got some good young players coming through, haven't they, Millwall? Exciting youngsters such as Jack Sturgey, Neg Hill, and Bangura Williams, who should make them competitive, enjoyable to watch. Massimo Luongo, he offers that midfield experience as well, doesn't he? They've really flirted, haven't they, with the top 6 a few times of Millwall, but always missed out of Alex Neil's men. So I've got them in 10th.
Yeah, I've gone for Watford in 10th. I quite like their business. You know, it's players who are untested, but, you know, I've been sort of listening and trying to keep my ear to the ground, particularly for WD12, fantastic Watford podcast. And basically, it sounds as though their pre-season has been really exciting. The style of football looks as though it's going to be great. And some of these young players who have come in the door look to have really matured quite well. Like I said before, a lot of this does hinge on whether or not they're able to keep some of those really exciting attackers, players like Quadro Bar, but obviously more importantly, Georgi Chekfatadze. If they can keep that unit together along with the additions they've made, I think they could have a really positive season. Now, I don't think, again, they're not a team I'm looking at with any kind of playoff ambition, but I think they will probably be the best of that mid-table chunk. Probably the last team at which I don't think they can start looking upwards. I think they're the last team that I go, this is my mid-table. My mid-table ends with Watford.
9th, I've got West Brom. I think Ryan Mason could go in there. They have bolstered the defence in Nat Phillips and George Campbell. I do think there's a lot more with West Brom, that they can do a lot more in this window. I think the firing power up front is going to be key. They always seem to be hard to beat it. The Hawthorns, don't the West Brom, and I think that's how they set up again next season. So I've got them in 9th. Who have you got? This is maybe one of my more controversial shots. I've got QPR in 9th. I love their business. I really do. Kwame Poku is an unbelievable pickup for QPR to be able to get him in the door. Obviously, Sheffield United were rumoured to be after him. Birmingham were rumoured to be after him. So it's a massive coup that they've been able to convince him to go to QPR and get into their side. Amadou Mbengue as well, I think, is massively underrated because people look at what happened at Reading last season and they think, actually, there were so many off-field issues. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. But Mbengue was part of an absolutely outstanding defensive partnership with Tyler Binden. Both of those have got championship moves now. And I think he's a sort of fantastic addition to QPR's side. Takes some of the pressure off their aging backline as well. Players like Steve Cook's a great player, but he's not really fit enough to do 46 games. So when Mbengue takes that pressure off him, I really like the way they've gone about it. Julian Stefan had a great season managing over in France. I think he could bring across a really exciting style of football, but also a really successful style of football. He was at Rennes previously. So yeah, there's a lot to like about what they've done this summer. So I like QPR. I've got them in 9th. Ollie, who have you got in 8th and 7th?
So actually, I keep saying these are controversial. I've got Leicester in 8th and Middlesbrough in 7th.
Go on.
I know it's controversial. For me, Leicester, it's exactly what I said at the start. And it's mainly that I can't pick a floor and a ceiling. If you told me Leicester will win the league and get 105 points, I'd go, yeah, probably. The squad looks good enough, they could do it. If you said to me they're going to get a 10-point deduction, everything's going to fall apart off the pitch and they're going to finish 8th, I'd go, yeah, I think that sounds about right. And so for me, I've gone with the worst case scenario because I'm looking at the clubs around them and I think there's a lot of players there who've got a lot of talent. But I also accept that I deserve any pelters that I get. I'm just trying to give my honest opinion of where I think they're at. I think the squad is much better than that. But I think for me, it's the off-field question marks that Leicester have got that I just don't see at any of the 7 teams that I've got above them at the minute.
Fair enough. 8th, I've got Middlesbrough, new manager Rob Edwards. I think he's got an exciting squad to work with, hasn't he? If they lose Hayden Atney, then they've got to replace him quite quickly, haven't they? It's tough with Middlesbrough to emphasise it, isn't it? It's Finn Azaz has been linked away. Rob Edwards is starting from a strong base. The squad is undoubtedly talented. Will have money to spend, so I'd probably expect them to get them a few signings in. I think Hayden Atney is going to be the one that they really replace because he's good. Michael Carrick just couldn't really get it going, could he, to be fair? This is the thing. I think Borough needed to get to the next level. And I think he's hoping to really follow the blueprint of Michael Carrick, to be honest. 7th, I've got Norwich. I think if they can keep hold of Josh Sargent, I think they could potentially push for 6th, maybe. I was a bit unsure about where I wanted to put Norwich. I think Norwich are good enough to be where they are. I think they've had a good window under Liam Manning. They've had additions of Medic, Harry Darling, who I think are good signings so far. But I think Signs is going to be missed. They have got a talented squad, haven't they, Norwich, including new additions of is it Cavist Garden from Bromby. So he'll look to get it on. Forson, will improve the development as well in the second tier is Oscar Shuatu. So Norwich are looking good. Everyone's had Norwich there in the bats this year, haven't they? And you can see why. I think Leo Manning's a good manager, and I think he'll do quite well. Who have you got for 6th place? Let's talk about the playoffs.
So the playoffs, I've got Coventry in 6th. Think they've got stability with the manager obviously continuing, Frank Lampard from last season. Think they've got a really, really good championship squad. Jack Radoni, we talked about him earlier. Definite shout for potential player of the season. Somebody who's got lots of Premier League interest. Haji Wright, a fantastic striker. I just think there's quality running all the way through their team. I think they will be very disappointed if they're not at the very least in the playoffs. And I think they can expect a relatively successful season getting in the top 6.
I've got Birmingham City. I think they're my dark horses for the playoffs this year. Good squad, good backing. They've had a fantastic window so far. Damari Gray, I think, will do bits for them, to be honest. They've strengthened in every area which they've needed to, and they're coming up to prove a point. This is where I definitely think they can do in Ipswich. I think they've got the foundations to really build on. I think they've got an exciting squad. And for me, I think Birmingham, I weren't sure. I was a bit tied between Norwich and Birmingham with this, but Birmingham's 6th. 5th place, I've got Coventry City. They always seem to start off bad, and second half they'll come good, and they seem to push late for the playoffs. And again, last season they finished 5th, so I've got them quite comfortably there. Kessler Hayden with the addition and the improvement from Victor Torp. Then that's been one of the most exciting sides to watch in the second tier, according to Betfair. But I think they'll sneak into the top 6. There is a lot more to do. I think Jack Radoni is a cracking player. I think, is it Van Nieuwijk, the right back? I think I like him.
Van Nieuwijk,
Sakamoto as well. They've got a few good players, Cov. So I would happily put Coventry in 5th place, to be honest. I think Coventry fans be happy with that. So who have you got for 5th, Ollie?
I've got Norwich in 5th. I really like the business that they've done this summer. I think they've gone out to those kind of secondary leagues in Europe and brought in a lot of really talented, really exciting players. I think there's a big future there. I really like Liam Manning as their coach. Somebody who really stands out to me as being one of the best managers in the Championship. And I think he can get the most out of that squad as well. They signed young players last season, and under Hoftorp, they were a bit inconsistent. You would hope with 12 months more experience in them, they'll be able to get themselves that consistency they need to continually perform at the top of their ability. And so I've got Norwich in 5th.
4th, I've got Sheffield United, which I think it's a reasonable place in putting Sheffield United. Some have had them in 5th, 6th. But I'm very much where you expect them to score quite a few goals. Campbell, again, it's got to be a big season for Tom Cannon, surely, after that shit show last season. I'm sorry, Ollie, to bring his name up, but hopefully you get more for your money this season with Tom Cannon. Gus Harmer's going to be pulling strings again. Callum O'Hare, fantastic player. I think Ruben Sayers is going to bring a good sort of thing to Sheffield United, and I think they're going to be well up there again, to be honest. They've got a strong enough side. They're going to be competing again for me. So Sheffield United in 4th. Who you got?
I've got Birmingham in 4th. I think they have got an unbelievable squad. I think they've recruited really well in terms of the way that they've targeted not just good players for the Championship, but they've targeted top players for the Championship. Tommy Doyle is a fantastic addition. Kyogo, we talked about him briefly earlier, but at Celtic, he has absolutely torn apart the SPFL. They talked about him going to Manchester City. He's then gone over to Rennes. And yes, it hasn't quite worked for him over in France, but I think he's an outside shout for Player of the Year. And I think they've really built almost a Championship super squad. The players they had last season stepping up, players like Iwata, Clara, Stansfield, these are players who are more than good enough for the Championship. They're just being paid so much money. They took the chance to go down to League One and build with Birmingham. I think they've got a really good team, a really good chance. And I've got them 4th, which, to be honest, they might even think is disappointing with maybe where they're aiming to be this season.
Who you got in 3rd?
Sheffield United, I've got in third. I think that as it stands, our squad is not good enough to suggest any better than that. I don't think we're as good as we were last season. I really like Ruben Sayers. Think he's a good manager. Think he's stepping in and he's giving us a really exciting way of playing. Through pre-season, it's looked fun. We've scored lots of goals so far, but there are definitely questions to be answered about the squad build. How are we going to take it forward? And what happens if and when players like Gus Harmer aren't available? And I just don't think we've got the depth to fully push ourselves into the top two. So, yeah, I've got United in third.
I'm just debating where to put Leicester. That's my thing. I've had a second and third. I need to pick one realistically, don't I? I think taking into the points deduction, I would say third. But then again, I say with it's -9. I think it's easily to claw back in the Championship than it is the Premier League. We've got a very good squad. I'll be honest, to compete in this Championship. You know, we've got the strongest side in the league. I think, if I'm honest, if we can keep El Khanous, Jeremy Monga is going to be exciting next year for Tarwu. I think Jordan Ayew will do okay for now. We just need a striker, which I think that's what hinders us with getting second, if I'm honest. The striker. We need to get the right striker in. And if we don't get a striker in, we're thinking, where's the goals going to come from up front? But then you have got the Mavridis, the Patawus, the Mongas, El Khanousis, who can really get you them goals. So it's going to be with Leicester this season. We're going to have to share the goals. We can't just rely on one player. But I'm hoping we can find that good Jamie Vardy replacement. So I, for now, early prediction-wise, would put Leicester City in third. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit on the fence where I'm gonna put us in third. I have had us down in second, if I'm honest, but yeah, it depends on the points deduction, how many points we actually do get, to be honest. So I've got us in third for now. I think some Leicester fans would take it. Some would say, you know what, we can push for top two. We can, but yeah, we'll see. Southampton I've got for second place.
Agreed. Me too. I've got Southampton in second.
Yeah, I think they've got a good enough manager, Will Steele. He's an exciting young coach. And I think they've got a good enough squad. But then you look at Ipswich and Southampton, we beat them both last season in the league. So I think Leicester are going to be one of the sides that people want to beat, I'll be honest. You look at Southampton's squad, it struggled really in the Premier League, didn't it, for most of that season. They had an horrific season, but it's how they come back from that, and it's Southampton with the amount of beatings they took. And this is the same for Leicester and Ipswich. So I think Saints second / third. I'm gonna sit in with Leicester and Southampton to either swap over in my prediction, to be fair. So I'm going to sit on the fence with them both. But I've got first Ipswich.
Same. Agreed. I've got Ipswich in first. And I agree with what you said about Southampton, really. It's all about how they bounced back from last season. But looking at their squad, there's no way it shouldn't be in the top two, in all honesty. And I think the same about Ipswich. I think the reason I've got Ipswich as the top team, the team that we're shooting to beat, is A, they've built this Championship all-star side where they're trying to take it forward, where they're trying to build this of super team. I'll keep quiet on that one. Sorry, Lou.
Yeah, watching back, Lou, you'll be dissing. You'll be very annoyed.
You'll be spitting feathers, and I will apologise, as I did at the time. But I think for me, Ipswich have got the best in terms of the depth of the squad. They've got proven players at Championship level. They've got a manager who is consistent and who has done it before. And for me, all of that creates just a full package, really. And they are the team to beat for me in the Championship. And I think everybody should be trying to shoot them down.
Yeah, Ipswich. I don't know. It depends, really, doesn't it? I know people have got a lot of hype around Ipswich this season, which you can see why with the manager and that. But it's about they've got some good players. Liam Delap scored goals for them last season. I don't think George Hurst will do the same. I think Ipswich have got a cracking manager. I think Amari Hutchinson's a great player. The midfield, it needs a massive tweaking, to be fair, because they've got rid of Sam Moses, who's that real strong point in the midfield. But yeah, I've got Ipswich there for now. I will happily sit there with them for now because everyone seems to have Ipswich there. So yeah, I'm going to have Ipswich top, and that is it for the early predictions for 25-26 in the Championship. Guys, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. If you're watching this on playback, let me know your thoughts on where your team's going to finish in the Championship this year. And Leicester fans, let me know your thoughts on what Ollie's positioning for Leicester City is. But Ollie, thanks for coming on, mate. Really do appreciate it. What's coming on at the Sheffield United way?
Anytime. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. On the Sheffield United way this year, we're just keeping it fresh, really, and trying to make sure we're moving forward. So match reactions, match previews, obviously coverage more broadly of the Championship. I'll also be doing my Monday podcast every week, the EFL Debate, where me and Gab Sutton go through everything that's happened in the Championship over the last week, trying to keep everybody up to date and giving our thoughts on the season as it develops through.
Appreciate it. Ollie, thanks for coming on, mate. Do appreciate your time. And I'll catch you during the season when we play Sheffield United.
Top man. Thanks, Jack.
Later, mate. Take care. Right, that is it for the Championship predictions. Yeah, brutal. Yeah, you've seen it now. He's gone off camera, so he can't really defend himself. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on where we've discussed. I've got Leicester as 2nd/3rd. It depends on the points deduction, really, done it. But I think I'll probably sit him in 3rd, to be fair, for now. I don't think the points deduction is going to come early on in the season. I think it's going to come very much later on. But they're going to see where we are, to be honest. But yeah, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great rest of the evening, wherever you're up to. Keep it at the final whistle and see you later.